Monday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of Genesis. The man had relations with his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have produced a man with the help of the Lord. Next she bore his brother Abel. Abel became a keeper of flocks, and Cain a tiller of the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to the Lord from the fruit of the soil, while Abel, for his part, brought one of the best firstlings of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not. Cain greatly resented this and was crestfallen. So the Lord said to Cain, Why are you so resentful and crestfallen? If you do well, you can hold up your head. But if not, sin is a demon lurking at the door. His urge is toward you, yet you can be his master. Cain said to his brother Abel, Let us go out in the field. When they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord asked Cain, Where is your brother Abel? He answered, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord then said, What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the soil. Therefore you shall be banned from the soil that opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. If you till the soil, it shall no longer give you its produce. You shall become a restless wanderer on the earth. Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is too great to bear. Since you have now banished me from the soil, and I must avoid your presence and become a restless wanderer on the earth, anyone may kill me at sight. Not so, the Lord said to him. If anyone kills Cain, Cain shall be avenged sevenfold. So the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest anyone should kill him at sight. Adam again had relations with his wife, and she gave birth to a son whom she called Seth. God has granted me more offspring in place of Abel, she said, because Cain slew him. The word of the Lord.
Responsorial Psalm. The response is, Offer to God a sacrifice of praise. God the Lord has spoken and summoned the earth from the rising of the sun to its setting. Not for your sacrifices do I rebuke you, for your burnt offerings are before me always. Offer to God a sacrifice of praise. Why do you recite my statutes and profess my covenant with your mouth, though you hate discipline and cast my words behind you? Offer to God a sacrifice of praise. You sit speaking against your brother. Against your mother's son you spread rumors. When you do these things, shall I be deaf to it? Or do you think that I am like yourself? I will correct you by drawing them up before your eyes. Offer to God a sacrifice of praise.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. The Pharisees came forward and began to argue with Jesus, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. He sighed from the depth of his spirit and said, Why does this generation seek a sign? Amen, I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation. Then he left them, got into the boat again, and went off to the other shore. The Gospel of the Lord.
Monday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 to 15 and verse 25. Adam goes to bed with Eve, and she has a child named Cain, and then another child named Abel. Abel is the keeper of flocks, Cain a tiller of soil. Now the story of Cain and Abel originally might have been based upon the idea of the enmity between farmers and herdsmen. But this story was developed by the Jewish author to speak about the enmity between brother and brother, and sin brings violence into the world. That in fact, they both offer a sacrifice, and Abel's is accepted and Cain's not. Now, why was Cain's sacrifice not accepted? It's been a question of debate for millennia. There really is no answer. We might as well say that God simply was in the mood for mutton that day. This answers a deeper question. Why is it that the Canaanites were rejected and the Jewish people were accepted? Why is it that King Saul made 2 little mistakes and he's rejected by God, but David ends up committing adultery, and he's forgiven? The ways of God are not ours to understand. We're supposed to surrender and accept it. And that was part of Cain's greater sin. He simply couldn't accept the fact that his brother's sacrifice was accepted. He's jealous of him. God tries to save Cain from sinning. He says that sin is crouching at the door. Now it's interesting. There was a Babylonian god named the Croucher who would attack you when you left a house at night. And the image is probably taken from that. Cain allows his jealousy to reach the point where he kills his brother. And then his brother's blood cries out from the earth. Remember, the earth is Abel's grandmother because Adam was created from the earth. And Cain is exiled to a life of wandering. He would no longer have a stable abode. Nevertheless, God gives him a sign, the sign of Cain, which protects him. Notice the sign of Cain is not something that would cause rejection, which was seen as a punishment, but rather as a sign of protection. And then Adam and Eve have more children to replace those sons that have been lost. Now, we could easily ask ourselves, where does the next generation come from? Do brothers marry their sisters, etc.? But the answer to that is don't ask. Remember, the story of Adam and Eve, yes, there was a first man and a first woman upon the earth, but they weren't necessarily named Adam and Eve. Remember how the skeleton of one of the first humans, Lucy, was found in the Aldovai Gorge. It doesn't make a difference what their names were. Whatever their names were, God created us. We were called to live a life of special union with God. We rejected that union, first by sinning, by doing that which we weren't supposed to, and then by allowing sin to multiply to the point where it became murderous. The Gospel is from Mark 8:11-13. The Pharisees asked Jesus for a sign from the heavens. Now he's been healing people, he brought people back from the dead. What else do they want? But they want absolute proof that Jesus is the Messiah. And in questions of faith, we don't get absolute proof. Faith is a question of trust, not absolute proof. And so we have to ask ourselves, what sign are we looking for? What absolute proof do we want before we'll trust without limit? And may God bless us.